everyone. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Bhaskar. I am so excited to be here today to talk about how to choose RFP management software. And I just have to say that listening to music before the presentation is like the best idea ever. So if anyone else needs to ever do a presentation, listen to some music beforehand. It's so fun. When Bhaskar first came to me and asked me to prepare a presentation for these weekly calls, the first topic that came up was RFP management software, which happens to be a little bit of a nerdy hobby of mine. And the landscape out there is a lot of research and information from vendors, but they don't really give you a place to start. So today I'm going to take you through the landscape of proposal software, the benefits, a nice way to understand your situation and get an overview of where you're at. And I'm going to take you through some features to consider as you take your journey through proposal management software. I've grabbed some facts and figures on the return on investment that might help you convince management if that becomes an obstacle for you. Like I said, typically resources like this are prepared by the vendors themselves, and I've used a lot of vendor resources, and I'm sharing those links and the information with you, but mostly I'm leveraging my nearly 20 years of proposal management experience and my experience with 3 or 4 different tools that the industry offers to help you understand the landscape and guide you on a decision-making process. So let's get started. The landscape, right? It could be desert, it could be sky, it could be the beach, it could be rolling hills. There is a software resource for everything these days. A Google search for proposal management software shows 307 million results. That like blew my mind. Capterra, G2, and Trust Radius are 3 of the biggest comparison tools where people can review things and stuff like that. They're listing anywhere from 90 to almost 200 different vendors that can offer proposal management software. And in their descriptions, there's everything from the smartest, the most intuitive, the easiest, the most efficient. How do you translate all of these descriptive words into making a good decision for your organization? I recently read an article about trends in exercise. A lot of beginner classes start with things that a true beginner might not be able to handle. I didn't even realize a barbell weighs 45 pounds without putting any weight on it. There's a guy on YouTube that actually does exercise classes in his jeans and a t-shirt, and he'll grab a chair and a towel and say, this is the basics, how to do a lunge, how to do this, how to do that. You don't necessarily need equipment, but I'm starting where he's starting with body weight exercises here, so to speak. We're not jumping right into barbells. I thought it might be easier if we use some real life examples. Tiffany, Meg, and Shane are our 3 proposal managers that we're going to be walking through today. I could have added 20 more points of interest around what these proposal managers do and information about their companies, but I tried to focus in on the basics here. Is it a big company? Is it a small company? Do they have a lot of employees? What industry are they in? How much of a proposal staff do they have? How many SMEs do they typically work with? What countries are they in? How complex they are? What kind of review process do they have? And how many responses do they submit every year? I've based the majority of this on real life scenarios from my experience, with certain modifications just to make it easier here. But certainly let's use these for context throughout my proposal. So Oh, wait, I went too far. I'm sure you would all get anything you could if it meant making your life easier. Especially lately, and I don't know about you guys, but we've been getting RFP requests in clusters. We had 6 deadlines 2 weeks ago on the same day, and now we have 4 in a 2-day span between a Friday and a Monday. Proposal software solves challenges and delivers benefits, and that is universal. It helps you create content. It helps you measure the effectiveness of that content. It helps reduce time. It helps you organize things, solve problems with collaboration and sharing content where, oh yeah, it's in that Word document that we have. It delivers benefits. It increases the win rate. It helps you create better quality proposals. It reduces the time it takes for each proposal. It streamlines processes and allows you to submit more proposals, or in a lot of cases, expand your repertoire. In a recent APMP survey, 85% of surveyed members found a content document library extremely useful. Most platforms offer that as one of its key features that allows you to manage your content, organize it, refresh it, look at it, all those things. 68% of teams that use dedicated RFP response software say their stress levels at work are almost always manageable, versus 54% of non-users. Dedicated RFP software users have a higher win rate. Teams are able to involve more contributors. 43% more proposals can be submitted without a tool. That's leaving a lot of revenue on the table if you're not using a software platform to let you move forward. So let's go back to our proposal manager friends. These are just a couple of quick benefits that might align directly to these cases. For Tiffany, fewer SMEs might mean that the software delivers more benefits to her small team of 2 who are juggling a lot of projects. An increase in focus on reducing individual proposal timelines and increasing win rates, and the ability to submit more responses and win more business might be a great argument for getting a solution for such a small team. For Meg, dealing with a lot of SMEs puts a greater importance on collaboration, and sign-offs tell me that reducing time is important to allow for reviews. High volume means quick turnarounds. RFP software automation and data confirmation with SMEs allow for quick and accurate response population. For Shane, more SMEs and more proposal writers mean an increase in complexity, and his benefits should focus on content organization and creation, as well as effective collaboration. Having a large sales team submitting responses requires accurate content. And later on, I'm going to tell you a little fact about how much more accurate proposal writers are than sales team members are. So to me, the first place to start is figuring out where you are. Who works on your RFPs? What processes do you use? What do you need the most? What other technologies do you use within your organization? Did management approve the expense? Did they give you a budget limit? Or are you working towards convincing management and you're looking for some ways to help speak to them? I have created a resource that we're going to share to anyone who attended this presentation, and it's an internal proposal team assessment. And it allows you to go through a series of questions and help figure out where you are in the beginning. And in the long run, that will help you speak to vendors and make a decision on what's most important based on your current scenario. Back to our proposal managers. The results, by the way, of your analysis might look very much like the overview I provided earlier. Tiffany is struggling. There's too many RFPs and not enough resources. We spend too much time searching for things in our standard Word document. Meg is drowning. And Shane needs a better way to manage his workload globally. This situational analysis could very well be a result of what your assessment looks like. And this is an important step because if you do this analysis, it will help you figure out where you go from here. If you're doing 35 responses a year versus 900, there's a big difference. And there might be project limitations in the software that you are looking for. There might be language restrictions on translations. So some important features and benefits. How does software make my life better? Now, I'm going to assume that most of you don't need convincing, but there are some key features that most solutions offer that I think will allow a proposal manager to really benefit. Collaboration tools. It allows you to have a conversation amongst your SMEs and your salesperson and your proposal writing team on what do they think this question means, or hey, we need to clarify this with the customer. Content library and knowledge-based management allows you to keep track of the questions and answers, keeping them up to date, sending them out for review, fact checks, writers, doing all that on an automated basis for you. Project management. I often tell people that project management is about 40% of my responsibility, right? We're writers, we're wearing a lot of different hats, but we need to figure out where we are with every one of our projects. And having a tool that can help you visualize what you're working on can be tremendously helpful. A big buzzword, no matter where you go these days, is artificial intelligence. Automated tools helping you move things along. They might help you import templates. They might automatically answer questions. They might export formatted responses. Anything to supplement that standard content that we all get every time. What's your company name? What's your address? What state are you incorporated in? And all that stuff. If you can push a button and AI can help you address those, think of all the time you have to really tailor your content for the situation that you're in. Searching. Search the RFP, search the answer library, search documents that you've had. Additional features and benefits. These are the ones that are more unique to different products. Audit trails, document management, electronic signatures, technology integrations. I know we're getting a lot of questions on that just in our industry. Can your solution also work in Teams? So can I send an SME something in Teams or in Slack, or can there something be embedded in PowerPoint or in Excel? Reporting was a big one for us because part of our business doesn't use a CRM or customer relationship management software. And RFPIO, which is the tool that we use, allows us to put reports together for senior management. And that has helped that division better. Do you have any questions or anything on where I am? Right now, I want to give a chance to pause.
Yes, Lauren. I think we got a question from Rita, but I have a few questions myself, but let me open this officially for questions as well. Like, the question from Rita says, most of the software for collaboration seems to be obsessed about compliance matters.
Rita, I think you're right. And that's something that I see a lot more in the government space. My experience is primarily in the commercial world, but I know that there's been a lot of conversations also about compliance matrices. Oh, Rita says not finished. Okay.
I'll let her continue her question. But let me ask this question, and then you could just move on to the next one. So please do ask questions in the chat box, team. So if you can, that'd be great. How much of this that is in, because everybody use Microsoft Office, Microsoft SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, etc. Lauren, from your experience, how much of these could be done within SharePoint itself?
I don't have a lot of experience directly in SharePoint, but what I do know is that SharePoint requires somebody who's really good at SharePoint. So if you as an organization don't have somebody who can either embark on the journey to understand how SharePoint can work, and then do it for you, or in my history, we didn't have SharePoint as an organization. So that became a sticking point. Then it's hard. If you have a couple of people on a team who can barely keep up with the workload, who has time to then learn about SharePoint to figure out how to do those types of things? So if you are able to get something out of the box, so to speak, that allows you to do that, yes, Rita, there are software solutions that are just as suitable for commercial bids and not necessarily just for tenders in the public and governmental or federal sector. There are a lot that are targeted for government, and I think that that's an excellent point in terms of going back to an assessment of your organization, right, Rita? You want to make sure that you know your situation. So compliance matrices aren't that important for someone in the commercial space. So if someone is focused and their marketing is focused on a compliance matrix, then that's not necessarily going to be right for you. So interestingly, my next slide actually says additional considerations: organizational configurations, languages, translations. And Rita makes a point. What's unique to your organization? You're a commercial, not a public or government sector proposal manager. And that's important in that regard.
Perfect. Thank you, Lauren. I think is it also true that if you are a product-driven company, there is you could get much more benefit out of RFP softwares because it's more or less similar. It's technical specifications, so there's much more chances. But in case of RETA and government sector, it's much more services based. So the utilization of the RFP softwares might not be as effective as you are if you're a product-driven company. Any thoughts on that?
Well, we happen to be a services-driven company, and most of my experience in the commercial space has been more with services-driven solutions than with product-based solutions. But certainly, I think that having a technology to allow us to answer all the basic questions that we get allows us to focus more time on the strategic questions that need to be crafted for that particular opportunity.
Thank you, Lauren. I think let's continue with your slides, Lauren. There are a few more questions. I'll just pick it up as we go. Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll continue along then.
Thank you.
So what I want to point out is I want to go back to our friendly proposal managers, because it's not just considerations. Let's see how some of these features might benefit our proposal managers. For Tiffany, AI automation saves time. Pre-populate the answers that are easy. For Meg, it's a smaller revenue company, so she's probably not going to be given a really great budget. So she should focus on the best features for the best price once she does her analysis. For Shane, he might end up with a ton of licenses, and that might be costly. Maybe there's a product that offers unlimited licenses. And these are the things that, as a proposal manager, you don't necessarily think about. Document management could help everyone. For Meg, there's a lot of official sign-offs, so maybe electronic signatures might help. For Shane, what's the maximum number of projects that can be managed at any time? And how do approval processes work? So if you're sitting out there and you want to learn more about these features, G2, Capterra, and Trust Radius, within their proposal management software categories, all list actually the features and can rate the different platforms on what features they offer. And you can see the reviews from users and from both the proposal management side and the sales side, and see what people are saying about how they're benefiting from those types of features. Once you kind of identify what you want, what you don't want, then use vendor websites for the vendors you're considering and ask questions. They're usually very helpful. Another point, there are often LinkedIn chat groups. I know the APMP has a very active group within LinkedIn, and they're going to be able to, maybe there's a peer that can help you learn about a feature and how you might benefit. Now what? Which way do you go, right? Building on that research, use tools, conduct research on websites, reach out to your peers, attend an APMP bid and proposal conference. This year's is coming up in a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be in Dallas this year, but it's a great place to meet people, interview vendors, have conversations, learn a little bit about the landscape. Make sure you consult management, IT, or your procurement teams for rules. A lot of times there are software security requirements or things like that. And then either issue an RFP or select a vendor based on the criteria you established earlier. We all know that it will be the most organized and clear RFP that has ever been issued. I actually issued RFP for RFP management software once because that was our corporate rule at the time in my career. I worked for a company that required an RFP for any spend over X amount of dollars, and ours fell into that. So I needed to issue an RFP, and it was a very enlightening process for sure. I learned a lot. Making your case. We all know management speaks the language of value and money. Perhaps you can quantify your hourly rate and show how much time can be saved for each project. What about connecting increases of win, a deal velocity, reducing time spent, increasing collaboration, and you can connect those to your sales team's goals and increasing revenue. Maybe tracking data is a challenge without a CRM, like I mentioned for one of our divisions earlier. And reports will be able to deliver information you haven't easily been able to capture. Trends, popular questions, your win rates, your time that you're given. What will make the most impact is ultimately up to each one of your organizations and the unique things that are going to speak to them. But I'm going to give you a heads up, a little boost here. Here are some facts that I pulled out of reports. Proposal software, powerful tool. 43% increase in monthly requests having software. For companies unable to respond to RFPs for time constraints and other factors, they're leaving $725,000 US on the table every year in median lost revenue. That's a powerful argument for putting proposal management software in your technology stack. Individuals process a significantly higher volume. Users report higher share of revenue coming from new business. I don't know what your organization might be focusing on right now, but certainly revenue is always something that people are interested in. Time money, accuracy. Return on investment is really unique to every organization. Going back to our proposal managers, Tiffany might want to save time and win more business. Meg is also going to save time, but responding to more RFPs and doing so more efficiently. Shane, control and global flexibility. It's a very individual thing based on the amount of influence that you have, what your role is, what budget you may be allocated, and more. Based on what I've shared, what do you guys think that our proposal managers might focus on, or what's important to you? Anybody have any thoughts?
While people add their inputs, please do add your inputs. What should be your key focus for choosing an RFP management software? While people, please do add it in the chat box. While they do that, Lauren, let me go back to a few questions that we missed. Question from Krishna. I would like to know about the types of software that integrates with Microsoft SharePoint. Obviously, everybody invests on Microsoft product, suite of products, but is there anything that integrates with it, that builds on it, etc. is the question. Lauren, I know you use a specific tool. Any thoughts on this, Lauren?
So I specifically kept my presentation agnostic to the different tools that are out there and did not dig deep into each one. Here are some of the resources that I used in terms of the numbers, and it gives you some of the big names in proposal management software. I do not know specifically, but when you do your analysis, Krishna, make sure if that's a requirement, that that's on your list once you've done your internal analysis.
Thank you. That was useful. Again, I think you already answered the question from Andrew. Like, what software do you currently use? Lauren, would you like to come back again?
I have a favorite for sure. I'm very comfortable with RFPIO, which is what I've used now for a few years. But it might not be for you. I don't take advantage of, just to go back to Krishna's comment, I don't take advantage of any of their plugins for interactions with things like Teams or Slack or things like that.
Perfect. So I think there's a few more questions. Please do answer. Please do ask the question. Now is the time, because it's a huge investment. I think, let me go through the questions. From your opinion, Lauren, even before, yes, you are doing all this research on this RFP management software and stuff, but what should be the basic building blocks that you should be preparing yourself, regardless of what tools that you're going to use? Is there any checklist that you think, guys, have all these things prepared? Because regardless of who you choose, you need to ensure that all these things have to be ready for those guys to do. Anything?
So in terms of preparing, yeah, first of all, start with an assessment of who you are, what you've got going on, how many RFPs you do. That's a handy analysis to do to understand where you are so that you can understand where you're going. But try, it's hard because I haven't lived in a world without a platform in so long, but organize your content, even if it's in a SharePoint folder or on a shared drive on a network somewhere or in Microsoft OneDrive or something like that. Put your best foot forward with your content. And the one absolutely critical element to putting together and transitioning to a platform is don't wait for perfection. Don't say, oh, I haven't been able to get every single question and answer together and rewrite them so that they're perfect, so I'm not going to use the platform until we get there. that's not the solution. You have to get started. So even if it's just a matter of using the RFPs that you get and populating answers within the tool and getting it into the library as part of that process, that is absolutely the key, is to start.
Nice, Lauren. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, let me continue with the questions. Thank you. Please do have the questions coming because everybody talks about it. I do remember when I interviewed Dr. Tom Sant for Scribble Talk, he mentioned that the proposal automation goes back as early as 1989.
Yeah.
And then it comes on. So we still have this debate of, do we need to go for it? Do we not need to go for it? Or what tools, etc. But this is just a starting point of this debate. So let's just go. Piyush mentions that I think it's just a comment. He says, as per my experience, RFP management software work really well for Q&A based RFP response. But when the team is simply proposing a solution along with regular stuff like references, pricing, key differentiators, etc., how do these software help, Lauren?
Payus, that's a great question. And that's, I think it goes back to analyzing your situation. If you're proposing solutions, maybe managing references, managing key differentiators. Maybe you have a lot of instances where you are leveraging documents and attachments, implementation processes, IT security documents. Maybe document management might be a key thing for you to focus on. It's about, to me, organization and the project management part of it. If you're working on a lot of projects, Payush, do you always know where every project might sit? We do use our tool for what we consider non-standard, custom proposals or unsolicited instances where there isn't really necessarily an RFP, which is the closest in my world to a solution proposal. Wouldn't it be nice if you had a place to always go where you had snippets of content that you'd be able to use to pull together that solution? An intro paragraph to your references, about us, bios for each team member, or even resumes. And wouldn't it be super cool if your solution actually reached out to the people who were responsible for that every so often and poked them and said, hey, can you update this so the team has the latest and greatest? Thanks. And then helped facilitate that.
Nice, totally. I think yes. And sometimes it's about managing inputs from people, consolidating the inputs, and ensuring that no inputs are missed. That's great. I think yes, there is always a starting point. Piyush, hope that was useful. Let me continue, but please do have the questions coming along. Any follow-up questions? David has a question. Lauren, how important is the value of contracts as a metric to pursue or select an RFP software? Because in the past, you used to work for bids that's always greater than $25 million. Now he's focusing less than $5 million. That's the threshold of a contract pursuit.
Right.
For choosing a software.
So David, I think it goes back to, does the value of the contract that you're pursuing directly correlate to the complexity of the RFP? So in my world, I've worked on a proposal for an RFP that was valued around $30 million. I've also worked on a proposal for an RFP valued around $1 million. And in some cases, the level of effort required has been the same. So if in your world, a $25 million deal versus a $5 million deal involves a different level of effort, I think the argument for something at $5 million is stronger, but only if that means that you can respond to 5 of them in order to win enough business to hit a $25 million deal size for a win. So again, a lot of it goes back to understanding your situation.
Thank you, Lauren. Hope that was useful, David. Please do share any follow-up questions on that. When we ask people to share, what should be your prime focus on choosing a software? We got few inputs, Lauren, and I have Rita's questions as well. So primarily the input from Ben is it's the ability to roll other departments in, killing multiple birds with one stone, boost the business case. I think his primary focus for choosing the proposal software is that one. Piyush says responding to more number of RFPs. Rebecca, thank you for sharing. She says usability. I don't want anything that is complex, time consuming to set up or use.
Yes. You want something that's going to help you.
Exactly. We have heard all the horror stories of people just going just because somebody else or a competitor has bought it and they invested on the same tool, then realizing culturally it never fit for them. So right. They went 2 years down the line, they went undoing everything. But totally, Rebecca, that's a beautiful point. Ben again comes back, say, you know what, his focus will also be information security questionnaires, legal compliance in the same platform. Yep. Are these focus areas rings a bell to you, Lauren?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. We have, we've seen a tremendous increase in InfoSec questionnaires as there are more leaks of data and there are more regulations, CCPA and GDPR and all of these things that are creating additional requirements. And to be able to put that, you know, in the platform is tremendous. And have it be organized. When, you know, at one point I had 4 or 5 of them that I was working on at the same time. It helps move those things forward, especially since there are, in some cases, some standard questionnaire templates that that if you have the answers to those, then it's easier to export back into that template.
Got it. Nice. Thank you. I think Tiffany continues. She's saying an ease of collaboration for the most accurate response is a big focus for her. And I think that's the point. Again, how do you make a business case? How do you make a business case for management to consider purchasing a software? Again, from your opinion, I know you didn't cover the licensing options or how different providers kind of go with the pricing options. Lauren, from your opinion, how does different providers charge them? Is it per project, per license, per person, per year? How does it work, Lauren? What are the different
yeah, the different options. So some of it is by project based. Right. Some of it is seat fee based. So if you have 100 users, it's going to be this. If you have 500 users, it's going to be this. Some of it is more of a, you're buying the software and then there might be modules and there might be more annual fees. But I think it's just very similar to any other instance where you're buying software. There's a lot of different models. And I think that's what's going back to analyzing your existing situation and where you're at and how many users and how many projects, and understanding that as you start to interview and work with these vendors will help you to understand as you're speaking to them about how their software models work. And that's where, you know, in some of the, where am I? So that's where in some of these situations, that's part of the considerations for that.
Okay, Lauren. I think it's a good point, Lauren. I think recently, you know, in January, because we were asked to independently benchmark. You know, in UK we have something called the Which rating, which is an independent vendor assessment thing that people rely on, trust, etc. People asked, hey, can you become a Which for the proposal vendor so that we know, you know, primarily which software will be suited for which climate, environment, which geography, etc. It's a massive task.
Yeah.
This could be the starting point for that, because the reason for that is Rita's brilliant question, which is like, how to deal with vendors, because normally, at the ballpark, yes, there are the 3 or 4 vendors. They talk about they have X number of clients, they work on X number of geographies, X number of client proposals, etc. But on the I will read out of a question which might ring a bell to everybody. Do you have a tip on how to deal with vendors? They are super useful. Oh no, the questions are gone.
Oh, sorry. It's now in the answered field. I just moved it because I actually just wrote a note to her.
Got it. Got it. Nice. Thank you. That's a good question. I think, primarily, I'll just read it out again. Most probably, if you agree with that, please say yes in the chat box. I think, most vendors are very useful, but at the same time, you need time to really understand your needs, because you are the one who's doing bids left, right, center every day. You should have some time to think about the real requirements. Mostly it's about the features that they talk about that might not be relevant to you. Also, obviously, there'll be persistence to close the deal. So on the one hand, I know I don't want to contact them until I'm ready, but on the other end, I do want to talk to them to understand more about their features and stuff, because I don't want to miss out on that. Anybody facing the same dilemma, like, what your mind says you should make that investment, but you're not prepared. But at what point, when is the right time to deal with them? Any thoughts, Lauren, or any kind of insights on this?
I think that the reason that I started this presentation with a focus on understanding your situation is, and Rita, this goes to your point, right? You don't want them to talk about features that aren't relevant. So if you spend a few minutes to just think about what is relevant to you and what is most important, you can cautiously steer that person and say, all right, I'm giving you 15 minutes and this is the thing that I need to talk about. And I want to understand, going back to, I want to understand how your document management system works, because I have a lot of documents that I need to manage in my response. Go. So I think that in your in your research and your efforts, if you can come to that vendor understanding a little bit about what you really need and what you're trying to solve for, I think that might help. And look, you're always going to get the salesy people. And maybe that just means that company is not a good fit for you. If they can't stop to realize that you've done a little research and you've identified what's most important to you, then maybe that's not the kind of company you want to work for in the longer term.
Yes. Rita, recently I saw a couple of proposals, global companies going for tenders, and interestingly, both the proposals, you would assume there'll be competition, right? Both the proposals, they only had one bidder.
Wow.
and the deal is actually worth multi-million. So sometimes it could go the other way around, where the buyer or people like you, proposal professional, clearly know what you need to go for, expecting people to go for it, but they don't. Sometimes they have created a software which works in a certain way, so it's much easier for them to customize your way of working into theirs rather than trying to be the other way around.
Right.
That could also be the challenge, but that's a good question, Rita. Any other follow-up questions? I know this is, this question always comes up, which is like, okay, we all have to have a knowledge library. We all have to do more for less. And as very early on, as Lauren pointed off, which is like, yes, it reduces stress. Yes, it helps us to do more for less, etc. But at what point do we bite the bullet and try this? And is there any easy way of trialing, etc.? Is the debate that goes on all the time. Any final questions, please do ask. In a minute, I will open for Scribble Quest. But no, some of the resources Lauren has kindly shared just over here. And there are lots of reports that comes out from these vendors as well. Just they survive a select group of people within their chosen clients, and they come out with some interesting numbers, like RPAs or Lupios or Chorus or the QVDNs of the world. And there are other providers as well who do that. It's worth just going through, pulling some pointers from this for your business case. But always remember, end of the day, it's your way of working, and they need to work their tool based on your way of working, not the other way around. That's how it is. So ask any questions last minute, open up. Otherwise, be ready. I'll be beginning the Scribble Quest in the next 30 seconds. People who join the Office Hours webinars know that I ask the questions from this talk. So if you have listened in, you will be able to answer this very, very quickly. So but thank you for all the questions. It was very interactive. Hope, Lauren, you enjoyed it as well. So let me open the questions. It's much easier. I'm not going to dwell too much on this. Question number 1. When you do a very first thing, the very first slide, when Lauren did say, hey, go and put proposal management software or proposal automation software. I think she used to search. She used to search, and in that search, especially in Capterra, there was a number, right? In the Capterra search, how many numbers? What was the vendor number that was there?
Wow, Krishna.
Good thought. So if 76 is what they do, but obviously it could be more or it could be less. But nice work, Krishna. Good one. But I know some of you joined slightly late because she started with, it's a very wide market than what you anticipate. Like it's not just, people don't call proposal automation anymore. They call slightly different names these days. So it's worth understanding how these companies call themselves even before considering them, because they're gradually moving into a different arena, try to add a lot more features to it, but keep an eye on that. That's a good one. And also the second slide, Lawrence said, hey, some of the reasons why people go for these vendors from the vendor reports, she said in one of the surveys, she said X percentage of the people surveyed felt RFP software is really useful for them. What was that percentage? We don't know the sample, but maybe they might have asked, 10 people, out of which most of them said yes. But a large sample of people supposedly said, hey, you know what, definitely RFP software is useful. How many? What was the percentage? Now, just guess. It's fine. Just guess it. I mean, we always make up things, as you know. Just guess it. It's definitely not, definitely not 100. That's close. Definitely not 100, Christine. So it's about 50, but not 100. Anybody want to guess? Just go. It should be fine.
I think she gets a half a point for trying.
Exactly. It's 85%. At least people tried. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, David, for trying. So there were 3 characters that Lauren used to discuss. Here we go, guys. Guys and girls. So this proposal manager has a different proposal focus. How does this software help her? This proposal manager, him, had a different thing. So what was the name of the 3 characters? And one, she's even an attendee today.
She is.
So we can actually guess quickly who they are, but who was the 3 characters? It was 2 females and 1 male. Yes, Rita, I'll be, as always, Rita, I'll be sharing the presentation slides with the recording in the next 48 hours. So anybody wants to at least try 2 characters? Oh my God, Meg, Shane, Tiffany. Well done, Rita. Nice
Bingo,
work.
Rita.
Tiffany, I was expecting you to say Tiffany. But that's okay. That's okay, Tiffany. That's okay. So the last question. Um, After that, yes, it's fine. It reduces the stress level. Yes, it helps us to do a lot more. But then, Lauren said, hey guys, do you know, if you have a software, obviously you can do a lot more. But she used the number $725,000 is left on the table, leaving on the table. But that survey came from which company? You know the well-known vendors, 4 or 5. It's definitely one of them. Who's that vendor? $725,000 is left on the table, guys. Please use us. What's that far cry? So who's that vendor? Again, guess there is only 4 or 5. We can't go wrong. I think all the probability of getting it right is higher than the probability of getting it wrong. Okay, there's 1 down, 2 down. No. So now it's only 3 left. Who's the other 2? No. Oh my God. Now it should be very easy. Yes, it's Chorus.
Bingo, Krishna.
Yes, so that's it. Either way, guys, I think they all are good people, but they all have, when you design a software, you do it based on use cases, as they say, and the use cases is built on certain type of clients that they operate. So it's very important for you to understand what type of clients whom they work with, and are these the clients that you want to work with. Mostly, as you can see, they tend to demarcate into commercial, like professional services type of companies or business services type of companies. And then you have much more of the legal driven government sector kind of a thing. So you decide whether it's software as a service type of companies they work, or they're not work, or they're different. So, and it's a smaller, or they work with, like small enterprises or corporate enterprises, just to understand before you do it. But either way, I mean, like, I am personally, we did a benchmarking ourselves, and what we found out is, while people talk more about, doing more proposals, when we benchmark when we benchmark 100 proposals in the UK, that was done using proposal automation tools, compared to the proposals that was done without proposal automation tools. Hands down, the proposals that was done without proposal automation tools were had much more quality. The solution aspects was very strong. And that's something that you need to keep in mind. The reason for that is, they bid less and they focus on more quality. Whereas when you actually have a tool, you're kind of slightly pushed into more volume. So keep that in mind. If you are a company that qualified, the 3 big proposals that you want to shape, and you want to nurture the relationship, solutionize it, do the capture and go bid it, then use the tools with careful, because it might not be the right thing. But if you are somebody who does 100 proposals a week, 100 proposals a month, etc., tools definitely help. But just to see your culture of your company as well, and is it repeatable projects? How many of that is repeatable projects? How many of that is large value but similar sector? How many of that is totally new? Pick and choose where you apply. But either way, Lauren, thank you so much for coming and sharing an interesting topic with us. Any last question? I think there was a question by David, which you already answered. Lauren, so thank you for joining. And as always, next week we have another super guest. We have Marina Corin. If you haven't listened to Marina, she's she's unbelievable. So Marina works mostly with NASA and all the clever people. So next week, we're going to talk about the recompetes, the secret of winning incumbent recompetes. If you are an incumbent, how do you approach your renewal projects? Very interesting topic. And she'll be talking about that next week. And please do join in next week. But today, thank you so much, Lauren. Thanks for joining. And please do, share any questions offline. You have Lauren's details there. Reach out to her, ask any questions. Lauren is a super kind person. Thank you, Lauren, for coming. Thank you for sharing. And thank you, everybody, for joining.
It was truly my pleasure. Thanks, everyone.